All right, today we're going to be talking about Let's Be Rational lessons 2.1 and 2.3. You should have your workbook open to page 13 and your textbook open to page 30. First, go ahead and highlight your focus question. How does an area model relate to multiplying fractions? And write this question. What does the word of mean in math? And I hope everyone in here could answer that. That of means to multiply. So if we are looking on page 30 in our textbooks, sometimes instead of adding or subtracting numbers, you need to multiply them. For example, suppose you take inventory at a sporting good event. There are 13 full boxes and one half full box of footballs in the storeroom. 12 footballs fit into each box. How can you find the total number of footballs without opening the boxes? Well, basically what it's saying is we have 12 and a half boxes, and each box has 12 footballs in it. 13 and a half boxes, 12 footballs in each. So you could sit here and try to multiply 13 and a half times 12, which I don't know about you, but I cannot do that on my head. But I can split it into two pieces. I can do 13 times 12 and get 156, and then the half times 12 and get 6, and know that if I add those together, that would give me the same answer as if I had multiplied 13 and a half times 12, and that gives me 162 footballs. So if we move on forward to the brownie pans, how much of the pan have we sold? Paula and Shania work at the brownie booth at the school fair. Sometimes they have to find a fractional part of another fraction. For example, a customer might ask to purchase 1/3 of the brownies in a pan that is 2/3 full. How much is 1/3 of 2/3? So first we need to find out what did the brownie pan look like when they arrived? When they arrived, it had 2/3 of a pan. So if I were to draw that, at arrival, 2/3 were there. The shaded area represents the brownies. So what I need to do is figure out what is 1/3 of that 2/3. So I have the same picture. I have the 2/3 shaded in, and then I've taken just the part that has the brownies, and I need to find 1/3 of it. So if I draw and separate into 3 sections and just shade in one area, make it darker, it shows that this is 1/3 of these 2/3. So if the whole fractional pan, to make our fraction, we need to represent the fraction as the bottom number being how many pieces the brownie pan originally had. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It originally had 9, and how many are actually double shaded? So we have only these 2. So if you look at 1/3 of 2/3, it actually equals 2/9. Okay. Remember, as we move into the problems, it's going to start talking about money. Remember, we don't use a cent sign when we talk about money. We use the dollar sign, a 0 to represent the dollars, the decimal, and then however many cents. So just remember that as you move forward into the lesson. Let's go ahead and flip to page 31 in our workbook, our textbook. And that is page 14 in our workbook. So you can go ahead and put a 31 at the top. It says all of the pans of brownies are squares. A pan of brownies costs $12. That's important to know that it's $12 for the whole pan. You can buy any fractional part of a pan of brownies and pay that fraction of $12. For example, a half of a pan costs 1/2 of $12 or $6. So then let me ask you, how much would 1/4 of a pan cost? Hopefully you came up with 1/4 of $12. 1/4 of $12 is $3. And we'll talk later on about how to find that if you don't understand how to take 1/3 of a whole number. All right, so you are going to work for the next few minutes on A and B with your elbow partners or tables, and then we'll come back and go over the answers. All right, by now you should have had time to look at A and B, and we're going to go over those real quickly. A says, Mr. Williams asked to buy 1/2 of a pan of brownies that is 2/3 full. Use a copy of the brownie pan model shown at the right. Draw a picture to show how the brownie pan might look before Mr. Williams buys the brownies. So when Mr. Williams arrives, it's 2/3 full. So I'm going to draw what 2/3 looks like to me. I'm just going to shade this real lightly. So we can see that 2/3 of the pan is full. Then we need to find, on the same model, use a different color to show the part of the brownies that Mr. Williams buys. Note that Mr. Williams buys a part of the brownie pan. So in other words, what it's saying is he didn't buy half a pan, he bought half of what was left. So I'm not going to use the second color. What I'm going to do is actually just shade darker. So I'm going to look at what's left. These are the brownies that are there. I need to buy half of these. How many pieces do I have? 2 pieces. So I could simply just shade one in super dark. If I wanted to, I could cut them in half and shade in 1/2, which would give me, again, we need to like kind of visualize that there was actually 6 original pieces. So how many pieces do I actually have double shaded? I have 2 pieces double shaded. And how many pieces were originally in the pan? There were 6. So we can reduce that by 2 and get 1/3. So when it says, what fraction of the whole pan of brownies does Mr. Williams buy? He buys 1/3. And I think this one actually had asked you to say how much would it cost. There's a typo there. Obviously, you need to read it from the book. How much does it cost? So it's going to cost 1/3 of $12, which equals $4. And lastly, it says, number 3, write a number sentence using of to show your thinking. So we already have this. 1/3 of $12 is $4. Okay, the next one. Serena buys 3/4 of a pan that is half full. So when she showed up, it was half full. So I'm going to make my brownie pan. And I'm going to shade it in half. There's the brownies. There's no brownies over here, only brownies over here. She's going to buy 3/4 of them. So I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'm going to divide this into fourths. And how many of them am I going to shade dark? 3. So again, to make my fraction, however many are darkly shaded is my numerator. How many were originally in the pan is the bottom. So if you can't visualize it, you might want to put your little dots here. So you can visualize there originally were 8. There originally were 8 of them in there. So now it wants to know how much would it cost. Well, it would cost 3/8 of $12. And there are lots of ways to solve this. So I hate that I have to do this on a video because I would love to hear how you came up with it. But there were a couple of the ways that my other class came up with was if you do 12 divided by 8, that would give you $1.50. And $1.50 times 3 gives you $4.50. Okay. Another way, which is the same concept, but it's just visual, that I saw other groups doing, is if $12 was the whole thing and you had to divide it into 8 parts, this was 0/8, this is 4/8, this is 8/8. If you sat here and found out, each one of these 8ths would be $1.50. And 3/8, the third one, would be $4.50. And there's many more ways, so if you have questions on that one, please see me when I return. All right, so we're going to flip the page to our workbook to page 15. And you're going to work on C only with your group. Remember, all you're doing, this one doesn't ask for money. All it asks you to do is to shade the brownie pan in to represent this, 1/3 of 1/4, and then give the part of the whole brownie pan. So just like we did here, we came up with 3/8. You're going to do the same thing over here. First, you're going to shade the second fraction because that's how it is when they arrive. So you'll show 1/4, and then you'll take that 1/4 and divide it into thirds and shade in 1/3. And then your denominator is going to be how many pieces the pan originally had, and the numerator is going to be how many pieces are actually darkly shaded. And you're going to do that for each of these 4, and then we'll come back and go over the answers. Pause. Okay, so now let's go over these. We have 1/3 of 1/4, so I'm going to divide these into fourths. I have 4 parts. Only one is going to get shaded. There's my one. Now I need a third, so I'm going to have to separate this 4th into thirds, and 1/3 is shaded darkly. So I'm going to just put these little dotted lines in here so I can count how many are there. 1 is darkly shaded, so that's my numerator. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 at the bottom. You should have gotten 1/12. So then we're going to look at the next one, 1/3. I separated it into threes. I'm going to lightly shade in one part. And then I'm going to separate this into fourths. Shade it in. And we're going to go ahead and put our dotted lines in so we can visualize. One part is shaded, and there are a total of 12 pieces originally in the pan. What do you notice about the question in 1 and 2 and the answers? 1 and 2 are the exact same fractions, just flipped. We call that the commutative property of multiplication because we decided of is multiplying. And that just means it doesn't matter which order you multiply in, you're going to get the same answer as long as you're multiplying the same two numbers. All right, now we have 3/4 of a third. So I'm going to separate into fourths, and this time I'm going to color in 3/4 of it. Nice and light, so I can see my division lines. And then 1/3 of these. Well, if you notice, look, I've got 1, 2, 3. 1/3 of it is just going to be 1. And there's more than one way to do that. And all of these, there's more than one way to shade. So if I look at this, the darkly shaded, I only have 1. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 in the original pan, so your answer should have been 1/4. A lot of you probably divided it into 12ths and ended up with 3/12, which is fine because if you reduce by 3, it gives you 1/4. Lastly, we have 3/4 of 2/5. So we're going to divide this into fifths. And we're going to shade 2 for 2/5. And then we're going to divide it to 3/4. So I'm going to divide it into fourths. And 3/4 would be all of this. So how many are shaded darkly? 6. And if you connected these, how many pieces did you originally have? You had 20. You can reduce by 2 and get 3/10. All right, see me when I return for help if you are lost. We're moving forward on to 2.2, and I will do a new video for that one.